Hi, this is Dr. Lenora Coleman, President and founder of Healing Our Village and Executive Director of Total Lifestyle Change, and I am so glad to be able to welcome you here today. On Saturdays, many of you know that we do our Sugar Busters Diabetes Self-Management Series. We actually have 7 topics that we cover because we are a ADCES certified program. That is the Organization of Diabetes Educators. And we are certified by that program to provide diabetes education and self-management. So we are now providing this virtually to make it really easy for you all to participate in our classes. But what I want you to do is reach out right now to everyone you know in your family, at your job, in your church, that also either have diabetes or prediabetes, and tell them to start watching us every Saturday. I want you all to start organizing watch parties. So important. So we can make sure that we help the over 30 plus million people in this country, the United States, that have type 2 diabetes. So we have to start really focusing on getting these folks educated and getting everybody out there to know your numbers, to start working on getting your hemoglobin A1C as close to normal as possible, getting your blood pressures down, and being on the right combination of medications to be able to achieve your diabetes management goals. So that is what this program is all about. It's called Sugar Busters. And again, it's available through Healing Our Village. If you missed the episode or have missed some of the previous episodes, they're all on my website, hovhealth.com. And so I encourage you out there to watch the videos. If you have any questions, write them down. And then give our 800 number a call, 800-788-0941. Give us a ring. I will assign you to your own diabetes educator where we can help you get your numbers under good control. So we're going to start off and kick off with Sugar Busters segment 1. And the name of that segment is What You Need to Know About Diabetes. So in this segment, we're going to cover an overview of diabetes, but also self-monitoring of your blood sugar at home. All of you should have a blood glucose monitor that you own, that you're using on a regular basis. And regular means every 3 to 4 days per week so that you know what your blood sugar number is. So those are what we're going to focus today on in our first segment of Sugar Busters. So let's talk about what is diabetes. Well, as I mentioned, there's 34.2 million people in the United States that have diabetes, both type 1 and type 2. We know that 21 million actually know that they have it. I'm concerned about the 7.3 million that have high blood sugars that do not know that their blood sugars are high. There was a major study done in the UK, in the United Kingdom, which actually looked at diabetes. And what it showed is that many of the people, when they first got diagnosed with high blood sugars, already had the complications of diabetes. They already had eye disease, nerve disease, kidney disease. In fact, the data shows that most people, when they're first diagnosed, have probably had high blood sugars for about 6.9 years before the diagnosis. So it's so critical if you have diabetes in your family, and we'll talk more about that, that right now you go out and get your blood sugar checked. That if you have diabetes in your family, you got Thanksgiving coming up, we got Christmas coming up, when all of you gather together in one spot, somebody there needs to bring their blood glucose monitor. So right after dinner, you can check everybody's blood sugars, including the kids, because we want to make sure that nobody's blood sugars are high. And we're going to talk about what that means. We also know that about 88 million people in this country have what we call pre-diabetes. So that means their blood sugars are somewhere between 100 and 129 milligrams per deciliter, and they're in a holding pattern right now. And about a third of those folks, if they do not get their lifestyle under control, decrease their carbohydrates, watch the foods that they're eating, watch their portions, lose 5 to 10% of their body weight, start exercising on a regular basis. If we do not do those things, those 88 million folks, a third of them with prediabetes will go on to develop diabetes. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and what that means in terms of trying to get folks in that category of prediabetes back to normal glucose tolerance. So let's just start off with more statistics, more data, because I want you to understand that diabetes is really prevalent in the United States of America. It's probably higher in this country than a lot of the other developed countries of the world because they have a different culture, a different lifestyle, a different diet. So we know here in the US, we got about 4.9 million, I'm thinking it's more like 6 million African Americans that have diabetes. One of the issues that I have is we're not doing the surveillance that we need to do so that we actually know who has diabetes. Every state in the country really needs a diabetes registry. So you know within your state exactly how many people have diabetes, how many people actually have prediabetes. We do some surveillance, but generally speaking, the data is inadequate. It doesn't have the total numbers in there. So again, we need to do a better job. But about, I'd say between 5 to 6 million African Americans in this country have diabetes. We know that it's 2 times more common in African Americans than in Caucasians. We know that 1 in 4 African American women over the age of 55 have diabetes. And as you get older, in that age group of 65 to 74, it's about 25% of African Americans that have diabetes. So diabetes is very common in the African American community. We also know that if it runs in your family, if you have a parent or a brother or a sister with diabetes, your risk goes up. If you're from one of the ethnic groups of African Americans, we've mentioned those. But we got Alaskan Natives, we got Hispanics, we got Asian Americans, Pacific Islanders. All of those ethnic groups have an increased risk of diabetes. As we get older, our blood sugar just normally goes up. It goes up about 10 milligrams per deciliter every decade. So just getting older can increase our blood sugar. And we know that the major reason why we have type 2 diabetes in such high numbers here in the United States of America is because of obesity. And because of, we have about 66+% of our population that is considered overweight. And that has just a lot to do with what we're eating, how we're eating, the amount of fast foods, processed foods that we eat, but more importantly, the fact that we are more and more going to what they call a sedentary lifestyle. So we're just not moving. We're just not getting up there and walking. It's really interesting here at our new building in Jonesboro at 177 North Main Street in Jonesboro. We just opened up our center here. I moved my office upstairs. And the reason I did that is because now to get to my office, I have to climb 2 flights of stairs. So I've already lost a pound this week just because of walking up and down the stairs at my office. So we got to figure out ways to incorporate what we eat and how we move into our daily routine. We also know that people with diabetes have high blood pressure. And many of those patients are on medications for their high blood pressure. And so we have to make sure that the patients are taking the right high blood pressure medications, if in fact they also have diabetes. We know that we see high cholesterol levels. that we see a lot of cardiovascular heart disease in patients with diabetes, that again, we talked about the folks that have the prediabetes, about 88 million of those, and that folks who have an inactive lifestyle tend to be at risk of developing type 2 diabetes. We also know that women that have polycystic ovarian syndrome, PCOS, and if you had a large weight baby, 9 pounds or greater, and your doctor said that you had gestational diabetes, there's a good chance that as you get older in your 40s and 50s, you may actually develop diabetes. If you in fact had gestational diabetes when you were in your younger years and when you were pregnant. So this doesn't mean you have to get diabetes, but it means you're at risk of developing type 2 diabetes. So let's talk about exactly what is diabetes. Well, it's a disease that affects the body's ability to produce or respond to insulin. So we know that diabetes is a disease in which that blood sugar that we measure is higher than normal. And we're going to talk about what the actual numbers are. It is so important that you know your numbers. And so we're going to tell you what these numbers are. Take a minute, go real quick, grab a pencil and paper so you can write this down. As I said, all of these slides will be available on my website at hovhealth.com, but I want you to get out your cell phone, wherever you take your notes on, and let's get these numbers written down so you know what your numbers should be. That's important because when you then go to your doctor and he's reviewing your lab test with you, you'll say, hold on 1 minute, and you'll pull up your notes. So when he says a number, you'll know if that number is a good number or a high number. Okay, so that's really important that we know our numbers. Now, the reason that your blood sugar goes up is just the natural processing of the foods that we eat. So when you eat foods, those foods that you eat get turned into glucose. Glucose is also known as your blood sugar. People talk about it as your blood sugar, but it is actually your glucose numbers that reflect the sugars in your blood. So when you eat food, that food is broken down to provide fuel for the body. And what happens in your intestinal tract, as in your stomach, as it's breaking down this food, it basically turns your food that you eat into either carbohydrates, which are sugars and starches, fats, or proteins. And all of this is done in the stomach. Now, the sugars and the starches is what turns into glucose. So that's why when I talk to you and we go through our program about what you're supposed to eat, when we talk to you about eating and having diabetes, we're trying to decrease the amount of sugars and starches that you are consuming in your diet, because those are what turn into glucose. Now, it is the glucose or the blood sugar that is absorbed very quickly from the blood into the cells. And this is what gives the cells energy to function. It makes your brain cells work. It makes your heart cells work. It makes your nerve cells work. All of the cells in your body require this fuel or this energy in order to be able to function. Now, there is a gland called the pancreas, and the pancreas is a large, elongated gland, if you can see in this picture, and it lies right behind the stomach. And the reason why we're talking about the pancreas is because it actually secretes a hormone called insulin. And that hormone is secreted throughout the day and after you eat. So all throughout the day, there's a little bit of that insulin coming out. And when you eat, that insulin level surges from the pancreas. And it does that so that all of that sugar that you're about to put in your blood gets out of the blood into the cell. So insulin is the key that basically opens up the doors to the cell to allow that glucose to get out of the blood and into the cell. So here's your lock and key cartoon, and you can see that all the little G's those are in your bloodstream. That stands for glucose. And so that insulin is that key that you see unlocking that door to get those glucoses into that cell for energy. Now, when you talk about diabetes, you're talking about there are two types of diabetes. Type 1 diabetes is when that pancreas in those patients, that pancreas stops making insulin. Usually happens when you're in your younger years. It happens to children mostly. It's mostly the children in this country have type 1 diabetes. And a lot of times it happens right around that age of 10 to 14, but it can also happen when you're a baby, when you're a toddler. And so in those patients that have type 1 diabetes, they don't have any keys, no insulin from the pancreas to open up the door to let the blood sugar into the cell. Now, type 2 diabetes is much more common. So there's only about 5 to 10% of people in the country that have type 1 diabetes, but there's about 90% of folks in the country that have type 2 diabetes. So if you're watching today, it's probably a good chance that you have type 2 diabetes. In type 2 diabetes, the pancreas either doesn't make enough insulin or it makes plenty of insulin. In fact, it makes too much insulin, but the insulin that it makes doesn't work properly. It doesn't fit the lock. It doesn't open up the door to the cell. And so that is what most people with type 2 diabetes are experiencing. So they have high circulating levels of glucose, but they also have high circulating levels of insulin. And that high levels of insulin is bad for you. In fact, you've seen a lot of commercials here recently talking about hyperinsulinemia. There's some products that are on the market that they talk about on commercials that supposedly decrease your insulin levels, all right? The best way to decrease your insulin levels is to reduce the amount of sugars and starches that you're eating in your diet. That is the best way to do it. Also, exercise is the best way to decrease your insulin levels. Now, when we talk about high blood sugar, we talk about something called hyperglycemia, which stands for high blood sugar. So when you talk to your doctor about your diabetes, your doctor is going to may or may not use that word to tell you what is going on with your diabetes. Now, there are certain signs of hyperglycemia, of high blood sugar. And the most frequent of those signs is frequent urination, especially at night. So if you find yourself getting up at night, going to the restroom 2 or 3 times, all right, to empty your bladder, there's a good chance that you may have diabetes. You need to know. You need to know what your blood sugar numbers are. Excessive thirst, increased hunger, being very tired and weak. And that usually happens later on after your blood sugar has been high for a number of years. Blurred vision, numbness or tingling in your feet. That is the symptom that most of my patients who are newly diagnosed, they usually have gone to their doctor because of this numbness and tingling. Their feet fall asleep. Their feet are cold. And that actually is a sign of your blood sugars being high because diabetes affects the nerves and diabetes affects the blood vessels. So that's a very common first sign of diabetes. When I was a retail pharmacist, I had my own community pharmacy in California. I used to tell my clerks and my technicians that if someone comes and says and starts to buy a lot of vaginal preparations, if they're looking for those vaginal preps because they have manilial infections, they have candida infections, I need to talk to them as the pharmacist because many of those women may have diabetes. Very common first sign of your blood sugars being high. Cuts that won't heal. All of those are the signs and symptoms of high blood sugar. Now, what causes your blood sugar to rise? Well, we talked about overeating. If all of a sudden you've gained 20, 25, 30 pounds. If you've had an infection, the weather has just changed. And now we're getting into flu season. And hopefully everybody out there will get their flu shot this year, especially because of COVID-19. So some of you will get bronchitis, some of you will get pneumonia, some of you will have other types of infections. That causes your blood sugar to go up because it puts stress on your body. Physical and emotional stress can increase your blood sugar. There are certain medications. If you have diabetes or prediabetes, when you get a new medication, or if you're on medications for any reason, you need to ask your pharmacist, are any of the medicines I'm on, can they cause my blood sugar to go up? You need to know that. And if you're on medications for your diabetes, but you're not on the right combination, or you're not taking enough of the medicine, that can cause your blood sugar to go up. Now let's talk about low blood sugar. A lot of people say, well, if I have low blood sugar, does that mean I have diabetes? And the answer to that question is no. Diabetes is about high blood sugar, not low blood sugar. But people with diabetes who are treating their diabetes with medications or with insulin especially, they can get into what we call low blood sugar reactions. So there are certain causes of low blood sugar. So let's say you've taken your insulin or you've taken your medication in the morning, and then you skip breakfast and you end up having a late lunch. That means that medicine is in your body and it has nothing to work on. So therefore, that will cause your blood sugar to fall. So too little food, too much medicine, too much exercise. If you go out there and you don't have enough food in your body and you do a 5K run and you have diabetes, that can drop your blood sugar. And then we mentioned physical and emotional stress. That can also cause low blood sugar reactions. So it's very important that you know the signs of low blood sugar. These are really important because when you ask me, Doc, is it better for me to have high blood sugar or low blood sugar? I'm going to say it's better for your blood sugar to be high and not low, because low blood sugar, if it gets too low, can cause coma, can cause convulsions. So you do not want to have a low blood sugar reaction. So you need to know the signs of low blood sugar. So there's sweating. And usually if you have that, that's actually good, because that's a sign that doesn't usually go away with time. There are some of these symptoms that I'm going to talk to you about that over the years, those symptoms of low blood sugar go away. It's called hypoglycemic unawareness. So you are unaware that your blood sugar is going down because you remember that when it used to go down, your heart would beat really fast, or you would be super irritable, or you'd have anxiety. All right, some of those symptoms go away. Being hungry, being weak. Everybody has their own set of symptoms of low blood sugar. So you have to really tune into what it is how you feel when your blood sugar drops. Inability to think clearly. Maybe you get a headache. Maybe you get drowsy. Maybe you get numbness and tingling around your lips. If this goes on for too long, as I mentioned, you can actually get coma, convulsions. You can be confused. You can actually pass out. So that is why we always tell you that if you're driving, you always need to have a fast sugar source in your car. And we're going to talk about the treatment of hypoglycemia. You got to keep those treatments with you, in your purse, in your pocket, in your car, at your office, because you do not want to let your blood sugars go down. Now, how do you treat a low blood sugar reaction? Well, there's something called the rule of 15. So we want you to check your blood sugar, which means by definition, you need to have a blood glucose monitor at home, so you know what your number is. You need to eat about 15 grams of carbohydrate. Wait about 15 minutes and then check it again. And if that blood sugar is still low, and what is low? Low is less than 70 milligrams per deciliter. If your blood sugar is less than 70 milligrams per deciliter, then that means you're having a low, and you're feeling the symptoms. That means you're probably having a low blood sugar reaction. So the first thing I want you to do is check your sugar to see what the number is. Because oftentimes, if your blood sugar, say, is 150, and you do something go out and get a whole lot of exercise and not eat, for instance, you can go from 150 down to 100 or 90 really quickly. And that can still cause the symptoms of low blood sugar. But if you test your blood sugar, you'll see that you're at 90, and that's not 70 or less. So then that means we don't want you to start eating a bunch of sugar, right? So that is why checking before you start the management or treatment is so important. And so what we're wanting you to do is to use what we call a fast sugar source. So you can go to your pharmacy and you can buy some glucose gel, or you can buy some glucose tablets. They sell those. Or you can just do a tablespoon of honey, or a half a cup of real orange juice, or a half a cup or a third a cup of real grape juice. And the word real is in there because there are some low cal, low sugar orange juices and juices out there. We want you to drink the one that has the sugar in it, because we're trying to treat a low blood sugar, right? Okay. A couple of tablespoons of raisins, 3 to 8 pieces of Lifesavers. Those work really good as things you can keep in your desk drawer at work, or in your car, in your purse. You can just carry those around with you. If you have nothing else on that list to use, you can use some of these, like table sugar or candy or syrup or jelly, a regular soda, jelly beans. But we would rather you use that other list of things and the right measurement, because remember, we're trying to get in 15 grams of carbohydrate as the management of low blood sugar. Now, for those of you, there are some that have what I mentioned, hypoglycemic unawareness, or you just happen to be very, very sensitive to the medications that you're on, the insulin that you're using, and so you have low blood sugar reactions often. If you're one of those folks, then you need to have a glucagon emergency kit in your home. Whoever you're living with needs to know how to use it. I've had many patients that we've worked with who have this problem, who spouse, husband, family member comes home and they're laying out on the floor. They've had a low blood sugar reaction and they couldn't get up. So that person who lives with you needs to know what to do. And having a glucagon emergency kit is important. You can get those at the pharmacy. Your pharmacy will probably have to order it, okay, because they don't usually keep them in stock. And so this is for the person who can't swallow. I just told you all these food things that you can do, but if you can't swallow, then you're going to have to give somebody a shot. So this glucagon can actually increase your blood sugars and can save your life. Now, it's important that you monitor. Everyone who has, in my opinion, who has prediabetes or diabetes needs to own their own blood glucose monitor. They don't cost that much. The strips don't cost that much. And it's important that you know your numbers. So you need to monitor your highs and monitor your lows. Now, we know that hyperglycemia, high blood sugars, that usually develops slowly over days or hours, whereas hypoglycemia can occur in minutes. So when in doubt, if you're feeling a certain way and let's say you don't have a monitor to check your blood sugar, which I'm hoping all of you will go out and purchase one today if you don't have one, then just treat it like it's low blood sugar. So go ahead and do your fast sugar sources. Because as I said, it is better for you to have high blood sugars than low blood sugars. Low blood sugars can be very, very damaging. So let's talk about this monitoring. This self-monitoring of blood glucose is critical. It's critical. This is what we do here at Healing Our Village. We help you understand your numbers. We call it pattern management. Everybody with diabetes has a certain pattern. Their blood sugars follow a certain pattern based upon what they do, how much exercise they get, what their lifestyle is, how much food they eat, the kind of food they eat, when they eat their food, how much food they're eating. All of this causes a pattern. And so if you're testing your blood sugar frequently enough, especially in the first few weeks when you first get diagnosed, then we look at your numbers, look at your pattern, and we're able to then make adjustments in your diet, your exercise program, but also make adjustments in your medications and when you should take your medicines and how much of your medicines you should take. So monitoring is critical. So when you talk about monitoring blood sugar, you're talking about either blood tests or urine tests. All right. Your blood glucose monitors are doing a blood test. But sometimes when you get sick, and like I said, we're coming into the flu season. So if you end up getting the flu or you get sick, it's important during that time to measure your blood sugar. So definitely you need to measure your blood sugar, but also it's important during those sick days that you test your urine, because we want to make sure that your urine does not have ketones in it. You guys have heard of the keto diet, right? That's where you drive your body into ketosis because you're eating nothing but vegetables and protein, and you're eating no carbohydrate. So measuring the ketones in your urine, you all have heard about this. Well, what that means is your fat is breaking down. And so it's really important that you don't do that to the point that you're spilling ketones. That's not good. It's not healthy. So that's why when people ask me about the keto diet, I'm not a real proponent of that, and definitely not a proponent of it for my people with diabetes. So again, 2 types of blood tests. The one that you do with your blood, and the one that you do with your urine. So everyone with diabetes should have a meter to test their blood sugar, and the ketone urine test that you buy from the pharmacy to see during sick days if you're spilling ketones into your urine. So we're going to pause just for a short minute, give you guys a chance to get up, get yourself something to drink, grab that pencil and paper, or get out your cell phone so you can take your notes. But more importantly, call somebody you know that has diabetes or pre-diabetes. Tell them that they need to tune in right now, like the Healing Our Village official Facebook page, so that they can be able to learn more about the management of their diabetes.
Epigallocatechin gallate, superoxide dismutase, glutathione peroxidase. Now, those are names you probably aren't familiar with, but you should be. Those are antioxidants known to fight free radicals. In fact, did you know that some viruses are actually alcohol resistant? One major study showed that by adding the epigallocatechins from green tea, it killed the virus on contact. Please allow me to introduce myself. My name is Mark Johnson. I'm here to share with you an exciting new, technologically advanced, patent-pending green tea hand sanitizing wash from Handout Protection. Now, this is not your typical hand gel designed to just smear all over your hand. This is a hand washing sanitizer to cover your entire hand, both the front and back of your hand, in between your fingers and your wrist. This is a non-sticky sanitizing hand wash designed for convenience to take with you in your purse, pocket, or carry in your lunchbox. As Dr. Josh Ridge has stated, what goes on your body goes into your body. That is why we choose only the highest FDA-compliant ingredients, such as 75% isopropyl alcohol and organic green tea brewed with alkaline water. The only way to protect yourself and your family is to always carry a disposable package of Handout with you. This may be the only handout you ever need.
Welcome back. I'm Dr. Lenore Coleman, President and founder of Healing Our Village and Executive Director of Total Lifestyle Change, and we are talking about diabetes. This is Sugar Busters, segment 1, and we're going to give you everything you need to know about diabetes. So we talked about what diabetes is, and we talked about the signs of high blood sugar and the signs of low blood sugar. And now we're going to talk about monitoring your diabetes. So important that you monitor your diabetes every day or every other day, especially if you're not in good control, if you're not at your target A1C. Your A1C needs to be between 7.0 and 7.5 based upon your age and your cardiovascular risk. But we want you, for most people, to be as close to 7% or less. And then we know that you're not going to get the complications of diabetes. So you have to know your numbers, and the only way to do that is by monitoring your diabetes. So in this graphic, you can see that your blood sugar, the white line, goes up and down based upon what you do. So if you get up in the morning and you don't take your medicine and you eat some breakfast, then your blood sugar starts to go up. And then now you go to the lunchtime and you eat some lunch at the office party and you have a piece of cake that you know you're not supposed to have. Then your blood sugar goes up even higher. And then you decide to walk to the post office right after the office party. That's going to help decrease your blood sugar. So everything you do, everything you eat has an effect on your blood sugar. So when we talk about monitoring your diabetes, we're usually talking about blood glucose monitors that are available. There's all sorts of different ones out there. In terms of which one should you buy, it depends on what type of diabetes you have. You've seen a lot of commercials here recently with the meters where you just scan your arm. Those are mostly used by people who have type 1 diabetes. For people who have type 2 diabetes, the majority of patients are still sticking their finger and using the meter that uses the strips. That meter reads the blood on the strip and then gives you a glucose value based upon how much glucose is in that drop of blood. The meter that you purchase needs to be easy to use. It needs to be not cost prohibitive. So the meters, are all about the same price, but the strips can vary. So you want a meter that's accurate, but the strips are not that expensive. And you want a meter that has memory, that has a data feature, so that you can actually store your blood sugar results, so that you can share that with your doctor when you go to see them. When should you test? You should test if you have type 1 diabetes, generally 3 to 4 times a day, before meals and at bedtime, and that's usually because people with type 1 diabetes are on insulin, and so they need to check their blood sugars before they give themselves their insulin shot. And usually they give themselves the shot right before meals. Type 2 people with diabetes generally need to check 2 to 3 times a day. I usually suggest at least 2 times a day, especially if you're not at A1C of 7% or less. And that again should be before meals and at bedtime, about an hour before meals and at bedtime. And then what we do is in our diabetes program is we look at all of those numbers. And again, we're looking for your pattern. And we'll be able to then make adjustments in your medications and in your meal plan to be able to help you get down to your good numbers of A1C. Now, if you're sick, you should also test, because you'll know if your blood sugars are dropping or getting too high, and that might require a modification in your medications. Certainly a modification of what you're going to be eating during the sick day. So it's important, if you get bronchitis or pneumonia or the flu or the cold or whatever, that puts extra stress on your body, and it's important to test both your blood sugar and your ketones in your urine during that time. So what do you need to test? Well, you got to have a Lancet. You have to have, which is the sticking device. You have to have the needles. They're called Lancets. You have to have test strips. You got to have a meter that it does data management. It's so important. You gather all those materials together, and then we want you to make sure you wash your hands with some soap and water. And then you're going to take the meter and put the strip into the meter. And then you're going to stick your finger and then sort of squeeze your finger from the bottom up, like I'm doing here, and then hold it. And then you're going to stick your finger, and a little small drop of blood will come out. You usually should stick your finger around the sides of your finger, not in the middle, because that's where all your nerves are. So that makes it hurt more. So you're doing the sides of your finger. And then once you get the meter, you bring it to the strip, and that blood goes right into the tip of the strip. And then within 5 seconds, you have your blood sugar reading. Try not to touch the strip to your skin. Try to touch it directly to the little droplet of blood. And then when you're done, you need to remove the strip and the lancet from the lancing device and then dispose of them in one of those disposable containers. You need to know when you see that number on the screen what that number means. What is that blood sugar number telling you? Well, we want you to be somewhere between 90 and 130, especially in the morning when you first get up, when you're fasting. Throughout the day, we want you to be less than 180. I like you to be less than 160 milligrams per deciliter, because that's how I can get your A1C down as close as I can to 7%. It's important that you use a meter that have apps, that have a mobile app that you can put on your phone so that you can actually monitor your blood sugar on your phone. You'll be able to then take your phone to the doctor and be able to show your doctor your reports that are on your phone. And again, we're looking for a pattern. We would love you to join our Village Club program so that it's not that much a month. We'll work with you just until we can get your blood sugars to where they need to be, and you'll be working with my dietitians and with my clinical pharmacists to get your numbers under control. So it's very important that you do that, and I happen to like the mobile apps because it helps you keep really good records. This is just an example of what one of the apps looks like. It has charts and it has a way for you to actually see your numbers. There are certain factors that affect your blood glucose. So you need to keep that in mind when you're using your blood glucose meter, because you have to figure out what time of the day am I doing this test? And then, did I just eat? Did I just exercise? Did I just take my medications? So all of that can affect that number that you're seeing in your meter when you do the test. You also need to check your strips before you use them to make sure they're still in date. And you need to make sure that that top on top of the strip stays closed and sealed. You don't want a lot of air getting into the strip container. So it's really important that you do all of these things, because when you take that blood glucose test, you want to trust that number. You want to know that that number makes sense. Now, that is what you're going to do on a daily basis, or at least 3 to 4 times a week, depending on if you're type 1 or you're type 2. But the test that you need to ask your doctor about every time you go, every 3 months, you need to ask your doctor, what's my A1C? What is my hemoglobin A1C test? That's the test that tells you how your blood sugar control is over the long term, over a 3-month period of time. So we want your A1C level, according to the American Diabetes Association, to be less than 7%. And if you have cardiovascular disease, then I want you around 7.5%. And we care that you're not higher than 7.5%, because we know that if you get up into the 8s and the 9s and the 10% ratio, then that increases your risk for the eye disease and the kidney disease and the heart disease and the nerve disease. So we want you as close to normal as possible. Normal A1C is somewhere around 4 to about 5.8%, depending upon the lab. So less than 6% generally. That's normal. So if you have diabetes, we'd love you to be in the 6s. That's really great. But at least we need you to be at 7%, or as close to 7% as possible. I know that most of the African American patients that we take care of at Healing Our Village, and most of the Latino patients that we take care of, we start with taking care of people who are 9, 10, 11. The highest A1C that I've ever seen was 25%, which is just insane. So it's really important that you know your numbers. And this A1C for people with diabetes is the most important number to know. So let's talk about what A1C actually is. Okay, so A1C measures the average amount of glucose that attaches to the red blood cell over a 2 to 3 month period. So just like there's hemoglobin inside the red blood cell that carries oxygen to your body, there is a component of the hemoglobin called the A1C component, and it happens to have an affinity or an attraction for glucose. The thing that is the problem here, especially in the United States, is that only 60% of people is that only 40% of people are getting that test. 60% of people with diabetes do not know what their A1C number is. It's really important that you know that number. In fact, doctors are required to do that test at least twice a year by the insurance companies. But they may not be telling you what your number is. So you have to ask, hey doc, what's my A1C? So over that 2 to 3 month period, you can see that as that blood cell is floating around in the bloodstream, if your blood sugars are high, you have a lot of those little white dots. Those are glucose. All those glucoses are attaching to the A1C molecule. So it really gives me a good idea of what your blood sugars are, all your highs and all your lows over a 2 to 3 month period. So this is a test you cannot cheat. You can maybe cheat your blood sugar numbers, but you cannot cheat your A1C number because it's going to tell me what your numbers are and what your mean numbers are. So that is why I am a huge proponent of that test. Now, I wanted to show you this graph, and this graph is really important because people don't know what their A1C number means as it relates to their mean blood sugar. A mean blood sugar is an average of all of your highs and all of your lows in a day. All right, so when you're looking at over a 2 to 3 month period, the A1C is looking at all of your highs and all of your lows, and it's giving you a mean average of those numbers. So when I said that normal blood sugar is 4 to 6, you can see in the green that you're looking at a 6.0 is 115 milligrams per deciliter. That's the average of blood sugar in order to get an A1C of 6.0. So if you're at 8%, then you're up in way above where you need to be in terms of blood sugar, right? You're up there in the 160s range. And then when you're 9%, let's look at that. That means that your average blood sugar, all your highs and all your lows, average out to 215 milligrams per deciliter. Now, I just told you that you need to be between 90 and 130 when you first wake up, and you should never get more than 160. So if you have an A1C of 9, you're nowhere close to where I'm telling you you need to be every day. So that is why it's critical that you know what your A1C number is, because it really represents what your average blood sugars are. And that's important to know. So now that is the end of segment 1. I enjoyed talking to you today about what is diabetes. As you know, over the next 7 weeks, we're going to go through all of the various Sugar Buster series. I encourage you to come back. I encourage you to ask questions. We are streaming live, so we're able on Facebook. If you have any burning questions, I have somewhere here in the studio with me that can tell me the question, and we can answer any of the questions that you have right now, real time. So I encourage you to do watch parties, to watch our program. If you're shy, you don't want to ask a question on Facebook, call our 800 number, 800-788-0941. We really need to get everybody out there who's not in good control to join Village Club. Within 3 to 6 months, we can have you well on your way to getting your blood sugar numbers and your A1C numbers to target. Our pharmacists work with you on your medications. Our dietitians work with you on trying to figure out what you need to eat on a regular basis to get that 5 to 10% of your body weight down. Go to our website, hovhealth.com. Our videos are there. They're posted for you. And again, our Village Club, if you join today, it's $5 a month. That's a $5 well spent for you to get your blood sugars under control. So thanks again. Look forward to seeing you next week. Hi, I'm Dr. Lenora Coleman, president and founder of Healing Our Village. Thank you so much for tuning in to Sugar Busters today. Spread the word. Let your friends and family know to tune in on Saturdays at 11 o'clock where we have the Sugar Buster series. And all of the Sugar Buster videos are available on our video website, hovhealth.com. These videos are on demand, so you can watch them at your convenience. Also on the website, we have Village Club, which is our concierge medicine program. You'll be able to talk to a physician to get a second opinion or a pharmacist to help you with your medicines. We have life coaches, we have dietitians, we even have psychologists. Whatever your needs are, we're here to help you. And Village Club is the way to do that. It's an annual membership, very, very inexpensive, and we encourage those who feel like they need a little extra help to become part of our Village Club. We have a new program, a diabetes prevention program, that is actually a CDC accredited program. And now we have a new app, which we will be launching in the next couple of weeks. Our mobile app will allow you to be able to watch right there on your phone our weekly diabetes prevention workshops. It has recipes, it has handouts, it has the curriculum. It also has access to our Zumba and our yoga classes. You'll be able to watch all of that either on your computer or on your phone. So go to stepup90.com. For just $6 a month, you can lose up to 5 to 10% of your body weight. All you have to do is follow the guidelines as we put them out for you. So in 90 days, you could lose 5% of your body weight. So summer's coming. Also on the website, hovhealth.com, we have our Village store where you could purchase a Bluetooth blood glucose monitor or a blood pressure monitor. Those Bluetooth monitors allow my educators to be able to see your numbers and work with you closely to get your numbers under control. So go to the website. We encourage you to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. If you have any questions, please call us at 800-788-0941, and one of our wellness coaches will get back in contact with you to answer any questions that you may have. Thanks again for watching Sugar Busters. Hello, I'm Dr. Lenora Coleman, President and founder of Healing Our Village. Did you know 88 million people in the United States have prediabetes, and that number keeps growing? Did you know that more than 2 in 3 adults in the United States are either overweight or obese? Healing Our Village is excited to introduce Step Up 90 weight loss and diabetes prevention program all in one. Finally, there is a guided mobile app that will help you lose 5 to 7% of your body weight and help you get your 150 minutes of exercise in every week. All of this is available on your cell phone, notepad, or computer. To install Step Up 90, all you have to do is go to www.stepup90 from your phone or computer and hit the install button. Once the icon is added to your home screen, you can create a unique login and password or use your Facebook or Google login credentials. Do you have prediabetes? Does diabetes run in your family? Well, once you log in to Step Up 90, you can take the diabetes risk test. If you score more than 5, you may be at risk of developing type 2 diabetes. Step Up 90 features the CDC-approved Prevent T2 program, along with their food log, fitness log, and action plan. All materials can be printed or downloaded for easy use. Our monthly calendar provides our virtual class schedule with a reminder 30 minutes before the class to help you remember. Are you looking for easy to understand lifestyle videos, healthy recipes, exercise classes, nutritional support groups, or a cooking demonstration? All of this is available with our premium package. The most unique feature of Step Up 90 is your ability to chat with your lifestyle coach, a clinical pharmacist, or a registered dietitian. These experts will have weekly office hours. They are there to help you achieve your lifestyle goals and manage your medications. Sign up today for Step Up 90. We have our basic package starting at $5.99, featuring our weekly Zoom classes, and our premium package at $19.99. Step Up 90, it is time for you to step up.